Okay, welcome everybody to our 7th webcast in our Connect with HSPC webcast series. My name is Melissa Graves and I am a member of the Halton Suicide Prevention Coalition and also work for the Halton Region Health Department. With me today, I have my awesome colleague, Dara Eisner-Clancy. Dara is the Executive Director of Distress Center Halton. So today we're going to be talking about the Mental Health Commission of Canada's Roots of Hope Early Adopters Program. So Halton Region became involved with this program a couple of years ago. We applied to be part of this program and we were successful and are super excited to be bringing this program to the Halton community. Today we have Nitika Rewari, who is the Director of Prevention and Promotion Initiatives with the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So Nitika leads programs and initiatives that are focused on suicide prevention, mental wellness, and life promotion. From grassroots evidence-informed capacity building projects to national initiatives, the Commission is striving to build consensus and drive system transformation. Nitika has been with the Commission since 2013 and has led several national and international initiatives in the areas of workplace mental health, student mental health, employment for people living with serious mental illness, and suicide prevention. Nitika has extensive experience in strategic planning, program management, stakeholder relations, program evaluation, and knowledge exchange. Nitika has earned a Master of Science in Biotechnology from Northwestern University in Chicago, as well as a Bachelor of Science from the University of Toronto. She is currently a board member of 3 organizations, namely Canadian Mental Health Ontario, Distress Center of Ottawa and Region, and the SOCH Mental Health. So welcome, Nitika. We're super excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to all of your listeners as well. Thank you, Melissa and Dara, for having me here today.
All right, so we're just going to start off. Nitika, can you tell us a little bit about some of the latest evidence around community suicide prevention and about how Roots of Hope initiative addresses the best practice approaches in this evidence?
Absolutely. Melissa and Dara, first, before starting, I would like to acknowledge that since I'm in Ottawa, I am on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Nation. Now, we know that each year in Canada, nearly 4,000 people will die by suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for those aged between 15 and 34, second only to accidents. That's approximately 11 people each day. We also know that recent research has indicated that for each one of those suicides, up to about 135 people in the community will be either directly or indirectly impacted. As well as we also know that for every suicide death, there are approximately 5 hospitalizations due to self-harm. So when we multiply all of these numbers, not to mention those suicides that go unreported, it becomes very apparent to me that suicide is not an issue that affects people out only at an individual level. It's actually a community level issue that needs to be addressed at a community level. So over the years, research has shown us that both nationally and internationally, the impact community-led suicide prevention and life promotion strategies can have is tremendous. Anywhere from building resilience to increasing access to services, to increasing help-seeking behaviors, and decreasing the impact of suicide. These strategies consider a community's capacity, its strengths, as well as the coalitions and partnerships that are in place in the community, its socioeconomic and cultural landscape, and the underlying inequities through the participation of community members, as well as people with lived experience. So the National Suicide Prevention and Life Promotion Model that we call Roots of Hope is actually a made in Canada approach to suicide prevention and life promotion that was built on years of promising practices and interventions from across Canada, but also internationally. It's a 5-year program that intends to build and implement a community-tailored approach to suicide prevention. It works with a coalition of stakeholders from a specific community or a set of communities and draws on the promising practices locally and globally to develop a bespoke set of interventions that specifically addresses the needs of that community. As you can imagine, in Canada, we have a large number and types of communities, whether we've got rural, urban, people with lived experience, Indigenous communities, and so on and so forth. So the model considers a number of pillars or factors and guiding principles that can influence the mental health and well-being of community members, and works at the level of suicide prevention, intervention, as well as postvention. I do encourage you to visit our website for some more detailed information on those pillars as well, and to take advantage of some of the tools and resources that we developed.
Okay. Thank you for that. I was thinking I should take notes, and then we're recording this. Fabulous, fabulous overview. Thank you so much. I did go on that incredible website, and I was looking at all of the videos and list statements that people were making. And how many communities do you have involved now? Is it 9 or?
So at the moment, I'm very happy to tell you that we have been following 8 communities across Canada, where we've been assessing the effectiveness of the model in those 8 communities. But we're also very, very soon, with Halton included, are going to be launching another set of 11 communities that are joining the movement. Wow. And going to be implementing the Roots of Hope model. So I can safely tell you that coast to coast to coast, we're going to have 19 communities join hands. Wow. And implement this model.
That is incredible. Congratulations. Incredible. And all joined up during COVID times. So incredible community connections. Incredible.
If there were ever a time for a community to come together, it's these times. And I think that folks are seeing the value of a structured approach to do so in a very meaningful way.
Thank you. So with the original 9, what benefits have you seen in communities that you have implemented the Roots of Hope? And what do you think it could do for our Halton community or the other group that are joining at the same time?
So I can share with you that one of the biggest benefits that we've seen in communities is that many times communities work with either have coalitions like the one that Halton region does have and has a lot of experience and expertise in, but they have coalitions of partners perhaps who work in the mental health space, but not necessarily those that would be outside of the mental health space. So let me give you an example of that. That could be the local train organization, so the local train association, or the anything to do with first responders, or maybe the educational system. So maybe some communities have coalitions that are multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholders, but maybe others don't. So one of the biggest benefits that we see out of Roots of Hope is the need to understand where mental health is getting impacted, including workplaces, and where do we need to reach our community members, and starting with those stakeholders that we may not think of right away. So that's one of the biggest benefits. I also want to say that some of the initial steps to implementing the Roots of Hope model allows us to do a bit of a situational analysis, is what we call it. Let's understand the current state of our community and see where there is a bigger need and in which demographics is a bigger need as well. So that definitely aligns sort of the next steps within the model on where the bang for the buck would be when it comes to funding and when it comes to programming. And another big impact and big benefit of the program is also the focus. One of the pillars is research. And the focus on research pillar is to ensure that any programming that gets rolled out in a community is also showing the effectiveness, so that sustained funding is justified in that programming, and you build on success. So I hope that gives you a bit of a description of the model itself. But of course, the work that the commission is doing is also to connect all the 19 communities together in some way or form, so that folks from coast to coast to coast can talk about this, and stakeholders like yourself can meet with other peers in Canada and say, hey, what are you doing in your community? And is that working? And troubleshoot together. which is a big need.
I really liked how you do pull it together, and the idea is to scale and share. And
Absolutely.
no one service is working in isolation. And as you said, best practices can be shared across the country. So there's less rework and sharing the stats that you're going to gather. I mean, terrific.
Absolutely.
It's so great to have the collective movement together and everyone working in collaboration. So it's as if, go ahead.
And I'm just going to say that you find very quickly that it's not a very large community at the end of the day. We are a group of very passionate people who are working on this, who need support from one another as well, because it's a very heavy topic that we work on. And so that support and efficiency of dollars will go a long way in making sure that we're spending the energies where they need to be spent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that collaborative approach, I think, has just been so incredible. So we are just so excited to bring this program to Halton. And I've had the opportunity to meet with and talk with other communities that are working, towards the same goal as we are, to make our communities a suicide safer place to be. Just hearing the stories and the connections and the work that's being done in other communities is just so inspiring. And just, amazing to be able to connect with each other. It's a really great opportunity that you've given us. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I think I had another question, but you've almost answered it. And I wanted some examples of initiatives that some of these communities have implemented as part of Roots of Hope, just to give us newbies, some ideas.
Absolutely. Happy to share. And, I know in the Halton region, you shared with us that there's a need to focus on men and their needs and their mental health. So I'll give you an example that comes out of New Brunswick, where they developed a training for physicians and nurse practitioners tailored to suicide prevention in men, because they were also seeing 80% of their deaths by suicide in New Brunswick was coming out from men. And this training allowed physicians and nurse practitioners to very acutely become aware of those risk signs, those opportunities to have a conversation with someone that they feel might be having suicidal behavior or thoughts, and how to initiate that conversation. Another example I can give you is coming out of Saskatchewan, where communities have tailored their training to their local sort of educational system, training to youth, in both sort of even languages such as in English and in Cree. English is actually a second language in some of the communities in Saskatchewan, and they've been translated into the local language. This way, they make sure that when folks are in distress and reach out, help can be provided to them in the language that they most well receive. Another example I mentioned, one of the pillars of Roots of Hope, is means safety. And it's a very interesting example that I want to share with you that's coming out of our community in Edmonton. So their emerging data from the region showed that the community has a high number of suicides that were occurring via their trains and train stations. So the community worked really closely with transit supervisors, platform crew, train operators to train them on the signs of suicidal behavior in the train stations and on the trains, and to intervene in the best way possible. And the team also continued to work closely to train that staff and to explore sort of those emergency phone additions and station enhancements and surveillance technology that would best support anyone who's needing some mental health support at that time in distress. So those are, I hope, some examples that work well for Halton region as well, but happy to share more.
Those are some really great examples, Nitika. Thank you. And, when we looked at the pillars and the work that Halton Suicide Prevention Coalition has done over the many years that we have been working in our community, we're doing some really great work in some of the pillars, and it really helped us to address where some of the gaps were. And you mentioned means safety, and I think that's something that, we're really hoping to do a lot of work in our community in the future. So it just really has helped us to identify where we were already doing great work and where there are gaps in our community that we can help to support moving forward. So yes, thank you for that.
And I think that's one of the best, I would say, promises of Roots of Hope, where it allows you to recognize what's working well so that you're able to continue doing that, but also then recognize where else can you be putting investment in, and means safety, but also it tends to be one of those pillars where folks have a little bit less invested or a little bit unsure on how to further enhance that programming.
Yeah.
But another area that comes across as one that needs more attention is also the work with media. So the Commission has launched the Mindset Guide, if you have some opportunities to review. And it's about how media reports on stories related to mental health, stories related to suicide, and how can we educate our journalists best. And that is also an area that tends to be less walked on, a pathway that's less walked on, but one that I think communities leverage and benefit most.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. It's journalists learning how to carefully walk the walk and not fan the flames for the sensational, news bite or clickbait, and to write compassionately and empathetically about things. Yeah,
absolutely.
I like that. Yeah. Good work.
Thank you.
So proud to be part of, the 19 across Canada, and it's such an amazing and perfect time to do it. When we
and the
need
19 communities are paving the way, I think, for the rest of Canada. I think I would love for the rest of Canada to say, let's look at these 19 communities as our leaders, because they've taken the time to invest and really look at a very structured approach that is adaptable and tailored for the various contexts. And how does it work, and what can we learn from it?
And that was one of the things that really drew me to your program, was the ability to tailor to your community, because every community is so different and the needs of every community are so different. And the fact that we are able to do that is, super important to us. And I think also, the opportunity to bring, best practice approaches, evidence-based approaches to our community that have been shown to be impactful, that have been shown to be effective, I think is just so important. And we're super happy to, be launching the Early Adopters Program with the Mental Health Commission of Canada for Roots of Hope in September, around World Suicide Prevention Day. So World Suicide Prevention Day is on September 10th. So please keep your eye out to our social media channels for information and, promotional events that we'll be doing, and more information about the Roots of Hope program as we continue to implement this in Halton. So thank you so much, Nitika. Thank you so much, Dara. I think that was such great information, so important for our community to hear about and to know that this is going to be going on. And I look forward to all of the great work we're going to do together over the next couple of years.
Thank you, and congratulations to Halton Region as well for joining hands with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.